Can you guys hear my fan? Like, is it disturbing the audio?
Yes, sounding like generator.
I'm dead. Okay, I'm going to put it offline and start.
But it's not terrible though. Like Nigeria now.
Let me just let's have a semblance of quality life.
Okay. be like say people no want attend again. No. Finally somebody has joined.
Hi, good morning, Bosse.
Hello, good morning.
Morning. We're just waiting for some other students to join before we start. Welcome. Good morning, John and Deborah. How are you guys doing today?
I'm fine. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. You're fine. Hope you're good too.
I'm fine, thank you.
Okay. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Good morning.
Welcome, everyone. So today's class is going to be taken by my colleague Elizabeth. But before we get into the class of analyzing data and sharing your reports, we're going to do a quick review of the assignments that were submitted in. So just leave comments and so I'm just going to present now. Let me know if you can see my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
All right, so this was from the first assignment submitted by Joan on transforming and cleaning up your data. This was well done, Joan. I just had one comment to make on this location table. So I know previously the data for this was, it had the code here, and then it had the city together with it, and that was what was under the location ID. And I like that you've separated it. It isn't a problem. However, there's now duplicate columns that hold the same information. So if we see here, location ID2 has the same content as city, and the postal code is almost, I think it's identical to the location ID. So something to look out for is to take out duplicate or unnecessary columns too, because if you remember, we want to work with the smallest number of columns that we need. So we just keep each column must speak specifically to one thing. So since the postal code is unique enough, this can just be changed to this location ID. That means that you can remove you can remove this column for postal code, and you can also just change this to city if you like it, and then remove this other one since it's the same exact information in both columns. That's what I wanted to. That was my comment on this one. Every other thing is fine. It's just keeping that in mind.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay,
Great.
thank you.
You're welcome. The second assignment in this is the visualization assignment, and this was submitted by Bosse. So I really like the colors that you chose, that you used to create these visuals. I like um how big it is. It actually is like a general, well, let's say, recommendation to put about 4 to 5 charts on a page. So with the layout, I think that that works well. So just a few comments, right? So um if we think about the end user in this scenario, there are some titles here, yes, but I'm not really sure what this report is saying to me. So I think that um, there should always be a title on the page. Just like how if you're submitting an essay, you'd have a title, or if you're submitting a report in school, you have a title. That just lets the user know at a glance what this page is supposed to speak to, just like off the bat, first of all. And then your card visual here, it says quantity, but I don't know what the quantity is. If I'm someone that does not have access to the data, obviously I know what quantity it speaks to because we're the ones that provided you with the data. But if you think about the user does not know what data it is that you're showing. So you can edit the titles of these visuals and change the titles to or quantity of maybe products sold or goods sold over whatever time period and things like that. A lot of formatting and advanced formatting and navigation will be covered in our like intermediate class sessions where you learn how to really optimize your reports for your user satisfaction so that they understand what it is that you're showing to them. Right. With this, yes. Also, I love we loved pie charts and donut charts, and yeah, this is a limited number. However, this because 1, 2, and 3 almost look like okay, especially these two almost look like they're about the same, then this might not be the best visual to show. It is showing the information correctly, yes. And if I look at it, I can see that this is 32% and 28%. However, because they're so similar, at first glance, I'm not sure which one is exactly bigger. And I'll be the first to tell you that users are extremely lazy when they're interacting with your reports. They don't want to have to spend more than 2 seconds. They want to immediately look at it and understand what is there. Even filtering sometimes is a task for people to do. So if you were to change this to maybe a bar chart, then it would be distinctly clear that west is the highest, then east, then central, then south. So that's, I guess, something to just put in mind here. I think on this page, it was this visual that I was interested in because you have the sales for each manager across different categories, furniture, office supplies, and technology, and you have their sales and what you want them to see out of it. So I think that this is a good visual. However, for comparison reasons, this could be will I say better displayed with a decomposition tree. So that's about here. If I click on this and I can expand to sales team manager. So these are all of the managers, and I can expand by category. Right. So if I was to expand this visual, I can see, let me exclude organic. I can see how much each manager has done and the amount that they've actually sold for all of their different products. Another way that you could do this is with, sorry, let me just go back. Yeah. Okay, this chart does not necessarily show me that much difference either. So the table charts might be harder to read, but if you have comparison charts like the decomposition tree, or you could have a clustered column chart, then it actually shows a bit of comparison on how much they've sold across board. Or it could be the other way around where the manager is the legend and the category is not. Sorry, give me a second. So sorry, here I can see that for furniture, right? Brittany Bold has sold the most furniture, followed by Alicia Caldwell, then James Goodwill, then Tracy Banks, because the colors are here. So for each, if I want to see for each category who has sold the most, so if I know that, oh, okay, my best seller of technology is Alicia, and she's good at this, so you know where they can like focus their strengths on. I can't see the screen, so is everyone following? Do you see what I've done?
Yes, we are. But I
Okay,
have a
right.
question. Can I ask?
Okay. Yes, you can ask a question.
I really did not know how to put a heading for each page because it didn't like tell us how to do it. So that was what happened. I was not able to do that. So it kind of like quickly like just like shows how it's done, how to put a heading for each page.
Yes, I can do that. However, there's something I do want to know just because of what you just said that we didn't show you how to do that. There is, will I say, a lot of space that is given to individual learning and like research. So I really do not want everyone to depend only on what we have told you to lead like your visualizations and things like that. I think that, I mean, separately from this class, especially when you're learning how to do something, it's very important to get references and resources from many different will I say locations or things. So I feel like when we're in uni or school, teachers are always telling you to do your own like reading and research as well. So that's quite important because um, it will help you learn how to implement things and also help you to understand different aspects. There's so much to Power BI that cannot be covered in a 2-hour class. Even all of the different visualizations options I've just shown now are things that will take so much time to learn. But to put in a heading in this, you can just put in a text box. So the way you do that is just over here, see, add a text box to your report. And I could call this sales overview page. And you could format this with whatever text and size that you want it to be displayed. This is a bit big. Right? So you can just have one here. So usually if you're creating a page, I think another thing to keep in mind is that whatever your title is, all of the visuals in your page should be speaking to one overall goal. So if it's an overview page, then you won't necessarily have details like this here because this is giving me a lot of details. An overview would be, okay, this is my overall sales. I have my sales by region. So it will just be the high level numbers. And then they can filter down or they can go to another page to see more details like, okay, which one of my managers is selling the products better, right?
All right,
So
thank you.
you're welcome. Okay, quickly doing the last one so that we can go and start off the class for today. This was sent in by Joan. So similar comment on I like the titles that you have here, but similar comment on the overview title. I like what you've done here where you try to will I say display the order category and discount package for one particular customer. There's a lovely or will I say maybe this is an individual assignment or individual thing that I'd love if you could do. There's a way to dynamically change the name of the customer here. So if I was to have like a filter, for example, and I'll be able to choose the customer. And when I choose the customer name will change here, and the customer name will also change here. And then this information will be changed for each customer. So I can see for each of my customers the category, quantity, and discount. And John, that is what I am assigning you specifically to do because you have put this here. And I think this is a great idea. I would just love for it to be dynamic, right? So you could try that out on your own first. If you run into issues, you can reach out and we'll share some resources that might be helpful to do that. Before I go on, let's make sure that you understand what I've asked you to do.
Yes, I should make it dynamic.
Yes, this title should be dynamic and I should be able to filter. So when I have a filter here and I click on a different customer, it should change, and then this text box should also change.
Okay, all right.
All right, thank you. So I think another comment I would have for this page is that there is the theme, the colors are not consistent, right? So this is yellow and brown, and then this is a different background color. This is a different background color. Usually, just for let's say user ease of the user understanding it and everything, so that it doesn't look too confusing or like a lot is going on, it's usually better to use uniform colors across board, and then you use different colors of, if you are changing one color distinctly, is to highlight something. So let's say, for example, all of this, let's say all of this is, what is the highest person? Let's say I want to highlight only the highest person's color, for example. Maybe that person's color will be different and the other ones will be the same. But the colors across board should be a bit uniform so that there's more consistency across, or more togetherness. I'm sorry, I don't know if togetherness is the word, but I think you understand what I mean. So with this pie chart, it's a bit, so I like the use of it here because I can definitely see from looking at it that this is the biggest portion, followed by this one and then this one here. So there's no confusion as to which one is necessarily bigger. So I don't need to change this one to a bar chart, right? And what else did I want to say? So again, just like I said earlier, the visuals that you're putting on one page should speak to a particular goal or topic or idea that you're trying to pass across, right? So I'd say that if I have an overview page, let's say I want to have a customers page, because this is speaking to the customer, right? And this is also speaking to customer. So maybe I'll have a separate page that talks about customer, and I also have a separate page that's talking about products, right? And I can have on that page like, oh, which products are popular across customers, but it's generally just good so that the user knows that, okay, on this page that I'm looking at, I am looking at products, right? And that's what I'm analyzing, the customer segments across different products, things like that. On that page, I'm mostly looking at customer information and how to access that data for my information. Do you get what I mean?
Yes, I do. Thank you, I do.
Profits by product name and region, right? So this visual is a bit confusing to me, right? Because I feel like I find it hard to understand. And okay, saying for central, their profit is this amount and this amount and this amount, but then I can't tell what is higher in which category or where it is higher and things like that. So if you want comparison, and maybe instead of putting all of the all of the products on the table, maybe there should be a filter option where I can select, excuse me, where I can select the products I'd like to display on the screen, right? Or I could change this to a different visualization tool. If I'm trying to show Central, East, Southwest. Okay, no, this is just too much information on one. sometimes you have to play around a lot with the visuals, and then you have to really ask yourself if people will be able to understand what it is that you're trying to say sometimes. And maybe it might be better to make this, sorry, let me just go out here. It might be better to make this, either take this out as a filter or take the products out as a filter, so that we're able to reduce the amount of information that is on the page. I would do that, but I feel like I've taken a lot of time, and since we're going to be learning about DAX and things, it takes quite a bit of time, so I don't want to take up more of our time. But I hope that my feedback was kind of clear and that you have an idea of what to change. Okay, I think that's me done with my feedback. Thank you guys so much for sending in your reports. It's not too late to send in reports if anybody has not done their work. You have the data sets accessible to you.
Sorry, I'm so sorry to cut you short. So yeah,
Yes.
I actually have my report. Actually, we're supposed to just use to practice, but that's not even the point. So now I know that we can submit it, but I don't know where I'm supposed to submit it to and how I'm supposed to share it.
Okay, so you can save the Power BI file, like it's a desktop on your file, and just like how you would attach any file, you just
Okay.
email it back to us at
Okay.
etrainingworkspace@gmail.com. The email that's used to send invites and things to you.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can attach the file and send it there.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thanks. Okay. Elizabeth, are we ready? Oh, sorry. Before I say that, do we have any questions or comments or anything from when I was
Sir,
speaking?
I have a question, please.
Okay.
Like two
Yes,
questions.
person, please go ahead.
The first one is, can we have more than one fact table in a data set?
Can you
Then
have
the
more
next
than?
one was
Sorry.
that when one fact more than one fact table in a data set, is it possible to have
Yeah.
that?
Is this
Then
possible?
the second
Okay.
Okay. The second question was that during the visualization, I noticed that we can are trying to filter a product and think city at the same time, and I was told that I can only apply it only once to only one um live data set. So I was really confused. I thought maybe we can.
But I'm not clear on the second question. You're trying to apply transformations to two tables, but I said you could only apply to one.
Yes, no, not transformation. When it comes to
What?
filtering our visualization, that
Filtering your let me open it up so that we can see what you're talking about. Um okay, this is your report, right? So you were trying to filter what, or which page were you trying to
so
filter? Which one should I go to?
in the filter, I can pick anyone. Okay, I think this quantity by sales and product. That give me that. Yes. So in the filter pane, I noticed I was only able to do city, but I couldn't do products. Like top 10 or top something. Only city that I was able to. I couldn't do two at a time.
Oh, do you mean the value here, like the value that you filter by?
And yes, this items top 10. Yes.
Yes.
So I couldn't do four
Okay.
products also. Just give me an
Yes,
error that
because it's
only
already
be applied to one.
yes. So let's say if I try to explain what you have here, let me make it bigger. You're already showing the top 10 products, because what you have here, you have filtered the city by top 10 quantities sold, right? But because you do not have products on this, you do not have your products on your axis, so you cannot filter it by product as well. You can only filter by one value to show the top value of one thing. I feel like I need to say that again. So let's say that you have a table, right? You have a table of contestants or something. You're trying to show top contestants. You're also trying to show top states. But you can only show the top number of anything for one category. I can show the top 10 contestants, or I can show the top 10 age, or top 10 people, top 10 heights, top 10 things, but you cannot have more than one will I say show of top 10, because then it will confuse the visual. Because if I have here, right, I have 10 cities that I'm showing by top 10 values, and I have another top 10 that I'm trying to show. Which one will it prioritize to show me? Because it would then be New York might be number one for one category, and it might be number five for another category you want to show top N for. And it can't show that on the same visual because New York cannot be at number one and at number five at the same time. So you would have to have different visuals that are showing you that information.
Okay, thank you. I understand. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Any other questions? We should have questions, oh, my students. Have we tried to do something that we couldn't? Are we comfortable with visualizations that are available? Do we understand what this was supposed to do? Okay, I'd also like to talk about filtering a little bit, right? Just because of what Bosse just brought up on using the filter pane here. You do not only have to use filters here, you can actually bring in filters into your visual. So let me make a bit of space here. If I make this a bit smaller, I'll put my quantity of products here. And let's say I want to have a filter. You can bring in a slicer. A slicer is it functions the same way as filters. So you bring in slicers into your report to filter them. So let's say I want to see different products, not only these products that are here. Miss Bosse, please, where's your product table? She didn't bring it in. Okay, let's say I want to filter by location. I can put it here, and I have my filter list on this. Excuse me, sorry. And I have my filter list here. So I can filter all of these visuals by choosing different locations. You can see that the visuals are changing and the volumes are changing as I select on different ones. So my users can click on central, and then they'll see the amounts in central. They'll see the states. These states are only the states within the central region, and all of these values now only relate to the central region. You can change the format of this to a drop down so that it doesn't take up as much space. Sometimes you need space on your report, so you want the slicer to only take a little bit of space. And then I can click here, drop down, and select. You can also change your selection settings. So you can choose to show a select all button, excuse me, or you can choose multi-select. Multi-select means that you can see more than one region at the same time. So if I click on control, I can choose central and south. Maybe I want to see them together. Maybe I want to see east and central. So I can see values that only apply to east and central. So when you want to filter your visuals, you're not limited to the filters that you can do on this filter pane. You can also include filters from your categories. And really, that is what your dimension tables allow you to do. As we explained earlier, when you want to filter by different aspects of your data, then you can use that. So if I was to go to this table, for example, so an example of what I was asking Joan to do was to be able to filter by customers. So if I put my customers' names here, right? And I think she's already filtered for Annie here, but let me remove that filter. So if I want to be able to choose, I can choose the customer that I want to see information for, right? And it is updating as we go along. And so John, I've just done one part of the assignment I gave. So you're supposed to pay me for giving me.
Thank you.
So you have your customer filter here, and then obviously you can change. So you're not limited to the filters that you put on the filter pane. I just thought that was important to point out. And again, because that's another thing. Will I say with visualizations that you have to learn is that there are lots of things that go on your there are lots of things that go on your page that are not necessarily only visual. So your titles, your slicers. If you have if you want to be able to choose like this is taking up a lot of space. So it's probably better to do customer name as a drop down, to be honest. Let me take this back. So if I put customer name here, I should be able to drop down and look for a particular customer and click on them, and then I can see their information here because I'm filtering the data. What is left is for Joan to make sure that when I've clicked on Alexandra, blah, 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 is Alexandra's name that shows up here in the titles. So yeah, that's just a bit on slicers that I wanted to show us. Lizzie, are we good to go?
Yes. Hello.
All right. Yes. All right. Thank you.
Okay, hi everybody, good morning. My name is Elizabeth, but I prefer being called Lizzie. I will be taking the training for today. Please let me know when you can see my screen. Can you see my screen, please? Can we all see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Okay, today I'll be taking you through analyzing your data using measures, calculated columns, and question and answer visuals. We'll be looking at what DAX is, learning how to use DAX formulas using functions, aggregation and iterator functions. We'll also be learning how to use DAX to create a calculated column, and we'll also be learning how to use DAX to create a calendar table. First of all, what is DAX? What does DAX mean? DAX stands for Data Analysis Expressions. For some of us that are a bit familiar with using Excel for data analysis, we would have come across data analysis expressions in Excel using the functions that we have in Excel. Some of the functions include the sum function, the average function. We also have other text functions like length, left, proper, uppercase, lowercase functions. Now in Power BI, these functions are also used for to perform data analysis, and they are referred to as data analysis expressions. Now, data analysis expression is a functional language that combines both functions and operators. Some of these operators can be aggregators that are just used to like sum up a value at once. Some of them can be used to iterate over each row in every column in a specific table. And you can use this to calculate one or more values. You can apply filtered expressions in your aggregators or your iterators if you're trying to filter for a specific category. Now, in Power BI, you can use DAX to create new columns. You can use DAX to create new tables that do not come with your source data, which are relevant to the kind of analysis you're trying to perform. You can also use DAX to create dynamic formulas, which are also known as measures. Now, like I mentioned earlier, data analysis expressions can serve as an iterator and as an aggregator. Now, measures are calculated fields in Power BI DAX, and they are usually aggregators. They are usually just used to sum up or aggregate a specific value, while new columns or calculated columns can be used as iterators. That means you're trying to apply the logic of your formula to every row in every field in a specific table. A simple DAX syntax can be seen as when you're trying to calculate the sum of your revenue, which is the sum of your other sales. In this case, the others is the name of your table, while the sales is the name of your field. The first example of a DAX syntax, this revenue formula, can also be referred to as a measure, because in this case, it is just summing up, it is just aggregating the values in a specific column or in a specific field. Another example of a DAX syntax is when you have a measure in another measure. In this case, an example is East revenue. That's the name of our measure. So in this case, we are trying to calculate the sum of the revenue for only the East region. So the second part of our measure is saying location region is equal to East. Region in this case is the name of the column or the name of the field, while location is the name of the table. So we're saying calculate the revenue when the region in our location table is equal to East. So we just want to be able to aggregate the sum of the revenue that just belongs to the East region. Can everyone hear me, please?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Moving ahead, we'll be talking about creating a calendar or a date table. Now, when we talk about a calendar table, it is a table that contains a single record for every date that you might use in your analysis. Your calendar table is important, especially when you want to perform time intelligence analysis, and it can also be used to account for your leap year calendar dates. Using the calendar table also reduces the risk of missing dates, missing months, missing years that may be present in your data without your knowledge. So in the case where you're recording orders for a specific product, and for instance your orders table misses a specific date, or there is an error in terms of like the date format of your date is different. Now your calendar table accounts for that, because your calendar table is able to account for each date in a supposed period or range of years. So that way it is easy for you to be able to sync through every table in your data set and be able to pick values for each date that your calendar table accounts for. Now, when using time intelligence functions, you can use it to support calculations over a period of time, like maybe total year-to-date values or revenue, total month-to-date values or revenue, or even quarter-to-date revenue, or sales or orders or profit or quantity. I will be showing this in the demo shortly. Does anyone have any questions so far before we go into the demo? Hello? Hello, can anyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, we can.
I don't
Okay,
have a question for
if you
now.
don't have any questions, I will be going into the demo environment.
I'm sorry, I have a question. I'm so sorry for throwing you back. So I noticed that there's the DAX is under the explicit measures and the summation is under implicit. I think so. So in what context are we meant to use when are we meant to use the either DAX or the normal summation we know about?
Okay, to use, you mean normal summation, like just summing up your columns, the values in your columns, and just bringing it out into a card, for instance.
And yes, because under the measure, and just like we had implicit measures and explicit measures. So when are we meant to use implicit measures and when are we meant to use explicit measures? So that's the question.
Hello, is anyone speaking? I can't hear anything. Hello?
Can you hear me? Yes, I'll speak. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I know you were asking a question, but I think my network went off for a bit.
Okay, so I'm asking when are we meant to use either implicit measures or explicit measures? When's the right time to use it? How do we know when to use it?
Okay, when you're talking about implicit measures,
Lizzie, if you can hear me, please can you share your screen? The last PowerPoint page you had. Yeah, your mic is moving, but we can't hear you. I think your network might be. Bossy, I just wanted to be sure. What do you mean when you say implicit and explicit? So, when you say implicit, do you refer to just using sum, count, average, and then when you say explicit, do you mean using like calculate and the others?
For explicit, it involves using DAX. That's what you just spoke about. Then for the implicit measure, it involves summation.
hello,
Okay,
can
so I would
anybody
say
hear me?
within Power BI, those two things are the same. So your basic summation would be done with DAX. I mean, it might seem like you're familiar with it because you use some a lot within Excel, but some once you do your click on your measure and then you say sum, you're already writing DAX.
Okay. All right.
Just to add to that, while Lizzie gets her network back up, um, I think what I say is also important to know that there are some automatic aggregations that can happen when you have figures in Power BI, and maybe that's what let's say can be referred to as implicit measures. If I just quickly share my screen again while Lizzie is trying to. Can you see my screen?
Yes. A second.
Okay, so if I was to go to my orders table and click on profits, for example, and it comes up here and I make it a card visual, this has been what you could say implicitly summed up, right? And if I click here, you can see that it has some average, minimum, maximum, count, standard deviation, variance, and mean. So I don't have to write a DAX expression for all of these because there are measures that exist within the system already. And because it can identify that these are figures, the default for it is to sum this up. If I wanted to the average profit, if I wanted the minimum count, all of these things. Like for example, I can count my customers. If I want to know the number of customers that I have in this database, I can just go here and count distinct. So I have 793 customers and the average profit is 28.66. So we generally do not like to sometimes if you're just doing basic analysis, then using these numbers on the side are fine. However, just if you're building like a entire dashboard, especially if you're building it for other users, sometimes you want to change things or you would like to edit one part of the formula. And if you have not written a measure for it, then you have to create the measure and things like that. So I guess this would be implicit, and explicit would be actually writing out um, the expressions to calculate them.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, you're welcome. Lizzie, are you good?
Hi, can everybody hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I think I was having issues with my network. But I believe your questions have been answered.
Yes, it has. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. So we'll be going into the demo in Power BI and learning how to create DAX measures, create calculated columns, and create new tables. An example is the calendar table. Please let me know when you can see my screen.
I can see your screen.
Okay. Sorry, hold on. Okay. So here on the reports tab, I'll show there are two ways you can create a new measure here. You can either click on the new measure tab here to create a new measure, or you can go to the right hand corner of any field in any table. If you want your measure to be created and saved in a specific table, you select any field in that table. In this case, we're using the others table as an example. And then here, you can create a new measure. You can create a new column. You can also create a new quick measure. You can create a new quick measure by using simple calculations that involve, here you have options to use simple calculations, time intelligence functions, total, running total, total for category. If you want to apply a filter or not, you can use simple mathematical operations for a new quick measure, or if you want to concatenate a list of values. These are text measures that you can create. But then this is different from the actual create measure in that it is limited. The new quick measure is limited in the amount of functions or operators that you can use. For example, like what I showed here, you cannot create okay, let me use the text as an example. Here you only have two options to either concatenate a list of values or star rating, but then there are other text functions that are available in Power BI DAX formulas. You have other functions like extract or format a set of strings to a particular format. You can also extract strings from the left hand side or from the right hand side. You can also extract strings that maybe start with a particular set of letters, or start with, for example, you want to extract things that maybe start with book. Maybe you have things in your category like bookcases, bookshelf. You want to extract anything that starts with book. You have um DAX functions like that, but then you don't have that in the new quick measure pane. So that's the difference between the new quick measure and the create a measure. You can also create a new column here, but then you can also do that here. Okay, so here you can create a new measure on the data page. You can create a new column, and you can create a new table. Now when you're creating a new table, it is just like, it is going to look like any of your other tables that come with your data set. The only difference is you are creating this from the scratch, so you are defining which fields this table will have. You are defining also the data type of the fields as you're creating them here. You can also select a particular table and choose to create a new column. Now you can see that when you select a specific table, you don't have the option to create. You can create a new column here, or you can just click on new table if the table selected is not what you're looking for, or you can decide to create a new measure in that specific table. Now when you create a measure, one thing to note is that when you create a measure, you cannot visualize it in the data page. Because your measure is an aggregated value. It is not like iteratable that goes through every row in your table to perform a set of logic operations. Unlike your new column that shows, your new column will definitely have values for every row on this table, but your new measure does not do that because it is an aggregated value. Okay, we'll start with creating a calendar table. There are two ways to create a calendar table. In this case, we want to create a new table, and we're going to call this table calendar. We're going to be using a DAX formula to create this calendar table. There are two ways to create a calendar table. You can either use the calendar function or the calendar auto function. Now the difference between the calendar function in this case is that you have to indicate a start date and an end date. If you want your calendar to start from 1st of January 2020 and end in 1st of December 2023, what happens is that your calendar creates a set of dates that are within that range. It will not have any dates prior to your start date, neither will it have any dates after your end date. But then when you use a calendar auto date, calendar auto function, your calendar auto function takes into account all the dates in your model. That is, all the dates that are available in every table in your data set. In this case, we have dates in our orders table. We have dates in our orders table. We have the order dates. We have the ship dates. I think those are the major dates we have in this data set. Now, sometimes the first order dates that you may have might not be equal to the first ship dates that you have. Now, orders might have been made maybe 1st of January, but then the first time it was shipped was probably 5th of January. So you have two different consecutive start dates, right? That is what the calendar auto accounts for. So what it does is, because it is taking into account all the dates in your data set, it will pick the first date, which of course is 1st of January. it would now pick the last date. So even if you have a ship date that is later than your last order date, it will pick the ship date, the last ship date, as your last date. So that way you don't have any missing dates. So for instance, unlike the calendar function where you can define the start date and end date, and then at the end of the day you find out that there are some dates that are missing in your calendar table, the calendar auto function takes care of that. So to create a calendar table, we'll be using the calendar auto to create a set of dates. One thing you should note, so in this case, it has created a set of dates from the first date we have in our model to the last date. So in this case, the last date is 31st of December 2018, and our first date is 1st of January 2014. So when your calendar auto does not have any value in the brackets, it just does the normal beginning of year end to year aggregation, which is December to January. But if for instance you put a number 3 which represents the month of March, what this means is that it is going to start your date from the 1st of March to the last March date. Let me quickly show you.
Sorry, Lizzie. I have a question.
Okay.
Yes, so now for the calendar auto, what I understand is that for the data part, we're going to be using the date data that we already have in our fields, right? So what happens when there is no date data at all? There is no other dates, there is no ship date, there is none of those dates. Are we supposed to use just the calendar measure?
Yeah, so if you're saying that your data set, all the tables in your data set do not have any date at all, yes, you can use your calendar function and define a start and end date for yourself. The calendar auto function just takes away the hassle of having to decide, oh, is my order date included in this calendar date or not? What if I have an order that starts before the range of my calendar dates? So what happens? It just takes away that hassle. So if you don't have any dates in your tables, in all your tables in your data set, you can define your start date and your end date yourself.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. So as I was saying, because we have changed, basically we've changed the trajectory of our fiscal year. So we're saying that our year is starting on the 1st of April instead of like the 1st of January, and it is ending on the 31st of March 2018. So this is what happens when you insert a value or a figure in your calendar auto function. But if you do not, it just takes the normal January to December date trajectory that we use in our calendars. Okay, so now we have created a set of dates, and these dates take into account every date that is recorded in our model. The next thing to do is you want to create other, you don't just want your dates, you want to be able to account for your months, you want to be able to account for your quarters, you also want to be able to account for maybe your days of the week, your week number, your month number, your day name, maybe Monday to Friday instead of 1 to 7 or 1 to 5 and things like that. So you can definitely use DAX to do that. You can either choose to create a new column and write a DAX. So we're creating a new column. Let's name this month. Okay, first of all, let's start with the year. Let's extract the year. So Power BI has a function, a year function, which you can use. And then so you say year calendar dates. basically you want to extract the year in your calendar date only. So it extracts all the years for you. Another option is to define what format you want your year to be. So instead of using year, maybe you don't want everything out, which is very rare. Maybe you don't want it as 2014, you want it as 014, or you just want to extract the last two values, maybe just 1 4 in your year. Although it doesn't really make sense to do that, but then it might be something you just want to try. Instead of using the year function, you can just choose to use the format function. So what it does is you format the calendar dates as year. So in case where you don't want it 4 letters, you can use sorry. You can use year. So what it does is that it would just bring out the last three. So you okay, no, this is formatted as text. Hello, can anybody still see my screen?
No, we can't see your screen.
Okay, let me stop sharing and share again. Please let me know when you can see my screen.
I think she's having trouble with her computer. She'll be back. Let's just give her like 2 minutes.
Can you see my screen now? Hello. Hello, can anyone hear me?
We can see your screen.
Okay, sorry. I think my. Okay, we're creating a calendar table. Sorry, I think my laptop unsaved what I had done somehow. Calendar. Okay, we're creating the year field. Okay, so we're talking about extracting different parts of the date, such as the year, the month, and the days of the year. So this is the year. You can create a new column to extract just the month. So in this case,
Sorry, Lizzie, I'm sorry to cut you short. I just wanted to ask, the date and the calendar fixed, right? Like it's always going to be date and it's always going to be calendar, right?
yeah, so the calendar is what we named our table. That is why we have it as calendar and dates. So in case where, and
Okay.
date is the name of the first field that was populated in our calculated in our calendar table. So if you're naming your table a different name, let's say your table is dates, and then it populates this with dates, what you would have is dates. So date is the name of your table, date is the name of the field to which we are applying all this logic to.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so to get the month number, we have the month function and then calendar dates. So this extracts the number of each month. So in this case, we have January. We know that 1 represents January, 2 represents February, 3 represents March. Now, in the instance where your calendar auto is starting from, okay, like the example we tried earlier where our calendar auto, the first month in our year is April, because we use calendar auto 3, and then the first month in our year is April while the last month in our year is March. So what that will do is April in that instance will be represented as month 1 because that is the first month in our calendar trajectory. Does that make sense, please? So in that case, your first month is not actually January, but April, because your calendar auto function has been set to start your year from the 4th month and end on the 3rd month. Does everyone understand? Hello?
Sorry, I actually don't understand. Can you just like go back just the April part?
Okay, let me show you. So in this case, our calendar dates are starting from January to December. If we change the trajectory of this and say calendar auto 3, that means we're saying the third month of the year, which is March, will be our end of fiscal year. So that means our first month for the year, because our fiscal year is ending in March, our first month for the next year will be starting in April and ending in March of the next year, and so on and so forth. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes, it does. I
Yeah.
also have another question. Is there a way to change from this number? Because I know one is representing January. Is there a way to change it to text completely? I should be January, February,
Oh,
and not
yes,
one.
yes, yes, I'm getting to that. So if you want your month name, in this case, you're formatting your calendar dates. So you have this as January. If you want it in full, still the same thing. Okay, that's does that answer your question, Deborah?
Please, yes, please. Thank you.
Okay, then we want to create another column that identifies the days or the day number or the days of the week. So let's say day number. If you want the days of the week spelled out just like we have our month here, you create a new column. So let's name this day name. Format our calendar dates. Okay, if we want this spelled out in full also, we increase this to 4. Okay, there was something we forgot to do. We forgot to extract the quarter. So we want to be able to tell which of the months are in which quarter. This is particularly important if you are going to create a hierarchy, a date hierarchy later on. Now, a hierarchy is just like an orderly representation of your dates in the order in which they occur. So, for instance, um, if you want to visualize your data in terms of the year, I mean, in a year you have 4 quarters, and in each quarter you have 3 months. So basically, there is a hierarchy there from your year to your quarter, especially in terms of visualizing things like sales, like profits, like orders, like revenue for businesses. This is particularly important because you want to be able to compare what has happened in the previous year and the previous quarter compared to the current year or the current quarter, so you can be able to identify what changed, what's changed, what you have done differently that may have impacted maybe a positive or a negative change on the business. So we'll be creating a new column to extract the quarter values of the year. So this just gives you quarter in terms of numbers: quarter one, quarter two, quarter three. But you can also, if you're choosing to, maybe you want to see it as Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4 instead of just 1, 2, 3, 4. You can use the format function instead. Okay, so now you have your values as Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, Q5. You can also choose to concatenate this with maybe your year, so it is easier for you to identify Q1 of what year, Q2 of what year. In case maybe you don't want to have to filter by the year to see which Q1, so you just have it. You can use the and to attach this. So we're just saying format Q1 and the year of your dates. Remember that we had already extracted the year, so if you don't want to do this, you can just pick the year, that's calendar year. So here you have Q1, and each of the Q1s are like attached to each year. One other thing is you can choose to sort a column by a particular field. So in this case, we have our month number as 1. We have our month name as January. So you can choose to sort the month name by this. This is particularly relevant, especially when you have different months and different years. So that in the case where you are not maybe filtering by a particular year, or you're not, it's so when you have your month names maybe in your axis, it is ordered by the number in which they come. So you have January 1st before February, before March, before April, May, and up until December. So we can choose to sort this column by the month, which is the month number. You can do the same for your day name. Okay, this is not. Okay, so this is being sorted according to the number of days in a particular month. But what we want it to do is actually um say day name, the first day of the week is Sunday, the first day, the last day of the week is Saturday, which is 7. So Sunday should be 1 and Saturday should be 7, which is not what is happening here. So we can choose to format this instead as day. Okay, sorry, I was confusing this with week. Oh, sorry. I was confusing this with week number. So what this is doing is it is extracting the day number of the dates that we have on the left hand side. Sorry. Okay, I think another thing we can do is to extract maybe the week or the week number for your dates. So you can choose to either extract the week number or the weekday. Yeah, this is what I was confusing the day number for. So your week number shows the number, the what number your week is in the calendar year. We have 52 weeks in a year, so it shows the dates, which week number they're in, maybe week 1, week 2, week 3, or week 4. So you can see we have, in this case, January 1 is starting on a Wednesday, so that is in the first week. So we can see that Saturday in this case is the last day of week 1, and then on Sunday we are in week 2. In the case where we want to have the weekday, which is what I was confusing the day number for earlier, so in this case we have 7 days in a week, and we see that the numbers are numbered 1 to 7, 1 to 7 every time. So in this case, I want my day name to be sorted by weekday, because I want to be able to say that Saturday is the last day of the week and Sunday is the first day of the next week, which is what I was confusing the day number for. So we want to sort this by weekday, and then that is sorted. Okay, so now we've created all the elements of our calendar table that we may need. We have our year, we have our month name, day number, day name, quarter, week number, or weekday. Just to, I would like to take this back to just Q1, Q2 without the year attached. This is just a personal preference. If you prefer to leave it like this, it is still fine. So now that we have all the elements and fields in our calendar table, we would want to mark it as a date table. Now, marking it as a date table, marking your calendar table as a date table ensures that it is the central point or central basically it is the central point for like all your date values. This way it is easy for you to model it, and then everything that is being seen in this table is Power BI recognizes it as a date value. So in this case, your date field is your major dates. Basically, your date field gave birth to all these other fields on the table. So that is your major dates central point of location in your calendar table. So when we are marking calendar table as a date table, you're going to be Power BI will ask you what is your date field or your date column, which is the dates here, and then you validate it. Okay, now that we've created our date table, we've marked it as a date table, you can now go to your model, because in this case your calendar table is standing alone. It is not modeled to any other table in your data set, and you want it such that when you need to extract a date for anything on any other table, you're able to pick this from your calendar table because it fits. There is a connection, there is a relationship between your calendar table and every other date table. So that's where you don't have to be worried about, oh, I'm trying to extract the sales and profits for 5th of July, but for some reason we don't have sales for 5th of July, but we have profits for 5th of July. And then you're now maybe you have a sales date and a profit date. You're now maybe confused on which date to pick, because you also have to like extract profits and sales for like every other date that the profit table has. So it just makes it easier when you have this modeled to your other table, and then you just pick from the calendar date. So it doesn't if you're maybe on the 5th of July there is no profit, it is not a problem. It is just shown there as there is no profit for 5th of July, while sales has a profit. And then for days where you have profit and sales, you have value showing. So there is no problem, there is no confusion, there is no misalignment of for what values you are pulling out in whatever visuals you are creating. So in this case, we want our order date to be modeled to our calendar date. Bookie took us last week through modeling, so I won't be going too much into that. So we can just drag and drop, or we can go into the manage relationships pane and create a relationship as we deem fit. So we can see that this is a one-to-many relationship because our calendar dates only have single dates. We only have 1st of January, 2nd of January, but in our orders table, of course, we can have different orders with different order IDs for the same dates, which is why we have a one-to-many relationship, meaning we have so many dates, so many copies of the same dates from our calendar table in our orders table. So we are done with creating a calendar table. So this visual was what we created in the last class last week, and I'll just want to quickly use this to show you how your calendar date works. In this visual, for instance, okay, let me move this a bit. In this visual, for instance, instead of having to come here to maybe pull your orders date, or you have two dates here, you have the order dates, you have the ship date, you can instead use the calendar date, because now there is a relationship between the calendar date and the other dates. Now I just want going back to the model again, I just want to point out, since we have two dates here, we can also have a relationship between the ship dates and the calendar dates. One is just that you cannot have more than one active relationship between two dates. So you can make one active and make the other one inactive, such that there is a sync between both. So that way it is easy for you to use your calendar date to sync with items that are relevant to both the ship dates and the other dates. So here Power BI has automatically made one of the relationships inactive while one is active. The fact that it is inactive doesn't mean that your calendar date cannot still sync to your ship date. It just means that one is your major date relationship, while the other one is active but um a bit subdued, if that's the right word. Basically, one is dominant and the other one is not, but they are both acting in, depending on how you want to use it. When you want to use the calendar date for let's say ship mode, for instance, you can actually draw out those values because there is a relationship even though it is inactive. So in this case, instead of we use the other date here, I would like to remove this and use the calendar date instead. So we can choose to, now we just have it in date format. Here, Power BI allows you to choose what format you want your date to be represented. You can choose to see it as a general date, the short that has the date and time, or the short date that has just the date, or you can use the long date, which is the day name, the month name, and then the date and the year. So going back to what we had before, so we can see this. Let me adjust this a bit. So we can see this, that the calendar date is acting in the same capacity that the other date is, because there is a relationship. Now, if for instance I want to pull in the ship mode into this table, we can see now that we are able to see details about our orders and at the same time details about our ship mode, even though they have they are categorized into two different dates. But because of the relationship we've been able to create with our calendar date, it is able to sync all dates into just one, instead of having to pull in maybe other dates and then having to pull in ship dates as well in the same table. So that is one of the major advantages of the calendar date table. Quickly, I would also be taking you through how to create simple DAX measures. We've been able to look at how to create a new table, how to create new columns. So let's look at how to create simple DAX measures using some functions in Power BI. Okay, we can create a simple measure on, let's assume we want to calculate the amount of sales we have made based on a particular shipping mode. Now you can see that in this table, you can see that in this table we can tell which mode was used for each day and in each year. But what if we don't want to do that? We just want to aggregate it to say, oh, how much has standard class made in maybe 2014, or what is the total amount of sales that we have even gotten from standard class, or how many products have we been able to ship with standard class. So it is easy to use that with it's easy to create, visualize that or aggregate that using a DAX measure. Okay, so let's say standard class sales. So you can either use the calculate function, or the sum x function, or the sum function. Now let me quickly explain what each does. So the sum function is an aggregate function. It's like what you would normally use here, where you are calculating. For instance, you put in the quantity here, and you can just easily either select, maybe you want the sum or the average or the minimum. Yeah, that is what the sum function also does. You can just do that as one. Maybe this is not cutting it for you. You want to sum up all the values in a particular column or in a particular field, you make use of the sum function. But in the case where you want to filter by a particular expression, you make use of the calculate function or the sum x function. Now the difference between the calculate function is the calculate function will sum up everything, it will aggregate everything and filter by your expression. So it's, for instance, let's say we are summing up sales, it sums up sales and filters for, oh, ship mode is equal to standard class. That's what the calculate function does. But the sum x function is an iterator. It will go through every row and apply your expression, getting each values and storing in a temporary memory before summing it up. Let me explain. So for sum x, we are saying we want to sum up the sales where shipping mode is equal to standard class. So in that case, what it will do is, through every day in your calendar or your date table, it would sum up the sales that belongs to standard class shipping mode. It will sum it up and store it in a temporary table. So for Monday, January 6th, it sums up everything. In instance where maybe we made different records of different sales for different orders, so it will just aggregate everything from Monday, January 6th and store in a temporary column. It will aggregate everything for Tuesday, January 7th, store in a temporary column, and like that and like that. So it iterates through every row, and then at the end of the day, before it sums it up. But however, the calculate function will sum up everything first and then filter, oh, I've summed up everything and I just want what belongs to standard class, and then it brings it out. That's just the difference between the two. The sum x is particularly important for expressions where maybe you are calculating in your expression, you're not just filtering. Maybe in your filtered expression you are also calculating something else, or you just want to you want your logic to iterate through every row, especially when you have different records for the same date or the same day. That is what the sum x function does. So coming back to our DAX, okay, I think we should open a new report page. Sorry. So coming back to our DAX, we want the sum of, let's say we want the sum of sales. It gives you the same value as you just dragging and dropping your sales and then choosing on your values page what you want. Maybe you want it to be summed up, or you want it to be averaged. So this is in a card. Hold on. I'd like to normalize this value. So instead of shortening it, I normalized it. Okay, in the case where you are saying you want to calculate the sum of sales. Okay, let's name this sum of sales. You want to calculate the sum of sales where shipping mode is standard class. We create another DAX measure, and this time around, instead of using just the sum function, we use the calculate function. Standard sales, standard class sales. Okay, so we are saying calculate the sum of sales. And then the next part of the calculate function allows you to filter. Calculate the sum of sales where you want to filter for the ship mode, where the ship mode is standard class. Okay, so if you want one easy trick with Power BI is, in this case I had to go to the settings and normalize the values to bring the entire values out. So if I want to do the same to this, instead of having to go to my settings to do the same, I can just format Painter and apply the same to my next card. So we can see that this is just the entire sales that standard class has brought in. But then if I were to use the sum of sales, for instance, maybe for the sum of if I were to use the sum x function, I'm saying I want to calculate the sum of sales depending on the profit and quantity. So I'm creating alright, sorry, let me quickly okay. We have created two measures. Let me quickly create a calculated column. Now you create a calculated column when you want to apply a logic to every row in every field in a table. So for instance, I want to create a new column that multiplies the profit by the quantity. Yeah, we already have a sales field, but maybe you are not certain that the right records have been put into the sales, and usually your sales is supposed to be your quantity multiplied by your profits and stuff. So you can create a calculated column to do that. So basically your column is saying the sum of your profits multiplied by the sum of your quantity to get your calculated column. So it will look exactly like this. Sorry, hold on. So it will look like your column that you have in your field. Now if you notice, the two measures we created are not showing here. They are not showing in this table. This is because a measure is an aggregated value, and you cannot um, see, because it is aggregated into one value. It is not broken down to like accommodate every row in the table, which is why you cannot see it here. It is accumulated as just one value. If you want to see the values of a measure, you have to visualize it. You can also, if you don't want to visualize a measure in a card, you can choose to use a chart and maybe visualize maybe by the month, by the ship mode, by the sales rep, and things like that. But because it is an aggregated value, you cannot see it as much as you would see, like you would see the values in columns like this. But if I were to create a calculated column, which I was about to do, okay, so let's just say new sales. I'm saying others profits multiplied by others quantity. You can choose to do it like this. So what it does is that for every row that there is a profit and quantity, it multiplies it together here. So here we can see what we mean. New sales. So it's taking every quantity here, multiplying it with the profit. Every quantity here, multiplying it with the profit. This is a calculated column, and you can see that they have two different icons. This icon represents a calculated column, while this represents a measure, to show that it is just a collated value. So they have two different icons to represent them. Okay, that's a calculated column. You can also, let's create a new time intelligence measure. We have simple time intelligence measure, like I mentioned when we went through the slides, like the total year to date, total months to date, total quarter to date, and so on and so forth. So let's do a new measure for total year to date. So let's assume we want to calculate the total year to date, the total year to date sales for a particular shipping mode. Now if we go back to our calendar table, if we remember that our calendar date stops at 2018. That's the last date in our calendar date, and it starts at 2014. So we don't have any date that is like in this year, but let's assume 2018 is 2022, and we want to just calculate how much sales we've been able to make from standard class shipping mode from the beginning of this year up until now. Or let's say, since our date stops at 2018, from the beginning of 2018 till the end of 2018, we use the time intelligence function such as total year to date. It aggregates the value for a particular year from the beginning of the year up until the date that measure is being computed. So in this case, 2018 is our last date. So let's quickly create the total year to date for shipping class for the last date in our calendar table. So we're saying,
Sorry, Lizzie, can we start rounding up because of the time?
okay. So this is the total year to date function, and the expression we want it to compute is the sum of sales the dates we want to use is the calendar date. So it's computing the sum of sales for the calendar date. And then we want it to filter. We can see the Power BI is telling us to put a filter condition. We want it to filter for where the ship mode is equal to standard class. So that way it only computes the total year-to-date sales for standard class. So this is our measure. So basically, because it is using calendar date, it is blank because today's date is 2022, right? And we obviously do not have values for sales for 2022 in our calendar table. But if, for instance, we were to use the other dates, so basically this is for the last year to date in the other dates. This is the last total year to date sales that standard class was able to make. So I think I would stop here since we are out of time. Does anyone have any questions so far?
Hello. I have a question.
Okay.
So my question is for what you've done now, can we reach out later in the week when we're like practicing our own? If we're stuck somewhere, are we free to reach out and we'll get the feedback? Because the class ending today. So I'm just wondering whether in the future we can still get feedbacks when we're stuck on something.
Yeah, sure. You can send an email to the training workspace. You can send an email and we'll be sure to respond to your questions.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone have any other questions? Does anyone have any other questions? Anybody? Okay. For today's class, um, I would like to give an assignment based on what we have done so far. Creating a calendar date table, modeling it to all the other tables. Oh, definitely, you would have the recording of the class. Creating a calendar date table, modeling it to all the other date tables to ensure that your calendar date table is your central repository for date values. Creating DAX measures, looking at the different DAX measures and their different uses, learning the difference between a measure and a calculated column, learning to use the calculated function, the sum function, the sum x function, and also learning time intelligence functions such as total year to date. So I'll just like to give a short assignment so you can try this on your own at home. I believe you have this data set. It has been shared with you from the beginning. So you can create your own calendar table. You don't have to follow the format in which I created mine. You might choose to create just year and month. Maybe you don't have a need for the quarter or for the week or for the day number. So create a calendar table, mark it as your date table, model it to your data, and try your hands at other time intelligence functions. We were able to try out the total year to date, but then we have other functions like total month to date, total quarter to date. So because we're able to create things like quarter in our calendar table and month. So this time intelligence functions the picks the categories of our calendar table and applies to our logic. So I'd like you to try out on your own, try out other time intelligence functions based on the calendar date table that you have been able to create. I'm not going to define maybe the logic you want to apply or specific metrics that you can measure, but looking at your data set, there are so many other things that you can measure as a data analyst, so many other things. So I'd like you to experiment with time intelligence functions and see how they play in helping you to analyze your data sets. So that is all from me. I don't know if anybody has anything else to say. The recording of this class will definitely be shared with you via email. Does anyone have any other questions, comments, thoughts about today's class?
Hi, yeah, Lizzie. Thank you so much for running the session. So, you know, please can you type your assignment here? Or Clementina would like the assignment to be typed in. Please. So this is our last session in the 3 sessions for the beginner to Power BI. Sorry, the beginner Power BI class. I'd just like to hear what we think. John, Bosse, Christiana, do you feel like you've learned some things? What are your highlights, lowlights? What do you think that you're taking away from this?
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Thank you so much, Training Workspace, for this opportunity. I believe we are all grateful, like all the participants, we are actually grateful for this opportunity. I had so many highlights from day 1 down to day 3. But I think my major highlights would be the visualization, the class on data modeling and visualization. I really enjoyed that and picked up my mistakes as pointed out today, and I hope but I believe I'm going to correct that. Thank you so much. I would like us to also have like maybe a WhatsApp group or something where we can all reach out and connect with each other, if that's okay.
Okay, we can work on creating something. Maybe we would have, it might not be WhatsApp, maybe Slack or some other type of group platform.
Yes,
We'll find that and we'll send information on that. Thanks for
okay,
that.
thank you.
So we can share resources and things like that. Yeah, that's fine. Bosse, I'd like to hear from you. I'd like to hear from Clementina. Everyone.
Hello. So
Yes,
the
would
past
you like
few
today's session? Yes.
has been
Last week.
amazing. Very, very insightful for me because this is my first time coming across Power BI. And I can say it prompted me to like take a course online. I'm actually like undergoing right now. So it's a really eye opener. I really enjoyed everything. I learned so much. My highest also will have to be the data visualization class. There was so much to learn from it. And today's class is like filled with so many knowledge that one has to really explore. So I'd like to thank Training Workshop for everything. It was really, really amazing. Thank you so much. Keep up the good work.
Thank you for your awesome feedback. Deborah, Clementina. Hi guys, are we have we lost
Hello, good
us?
morning, everyone. I believe you can hear me.
Yes, I can. Go ahead, please.
Okay, so I really enjoyed this training. I participated from the first day till this day, and it's really been an interesting one. So I enjoyed data modeling and data visualization very well. Okay, and today's own, like, I was really off and on, and it's kind of something new to me. So I'm really depending on the recording so I can.
Okay, all right. Thanks for your feedback, Deborah.
So
No, that's
Sorry,
Clementina.
I'm sorry.
hello.
Yes. Thanks for your feedback, Clementina.
Oh,
Yes, Deborah, go ahead,
sir, I'm
please.
not done. Sir, I'm not
Oh, I'm
done.
sorry. I'm
Sir,
sorry. Please
okay,
go ahead.
so hello.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes, we can
Okay.
hear you, Clementina. Please go ahead.
Okay, the request I want to make is I believe this is an introductory class, like for beginners, right? So, is there an opportunity for intermediaries? Like, I think from what we've learned today, we've passed the level of beginners. So, I don't know if there will be an intention to host another class in the nearest future for intermediaries. I don't know.
Yes, we have plans to conduct intermediary and advanced level classes. However, those sessions will be paid for, and we're going to communicate pricing and schedules and things like that.
All right, all right. I'll be looking forward to that.
Hi everyone. I'd just like to just appreciate the team, just like everybody has appreciated the team as well. And despite having little idea of Power BI and stuff, just still felt like I was learning from beginning again because I learned like new things that I had not like learned on my own before, which is very nice. And hopefully there will be like more classes paid or unpaid that I'll be able to take and just learn more. And also like to ask if there will be like a specific class on DAX because I'm kind of like having issues with the DAX. It's kind of like a little more complex than the visualization. So that's just question I need to ask.
I'm so sorry, Deborah. I think I missed the last, like the last half of what you said because my network was being funny.
Okay, yeah. So I said that was very insightful, was nice, and that it felt like I was learning from beginning again, and despite already having like an idea and stuff. So that's how good it was. So I asked if there'll be a specific class on DAX because that's like where like I'm having like issues whether it's paid or unpaid, and like if there'll be more classes for intermediaries, like Clementina had already asked.
Yes, okay. So all of that, let's say the structure of that and the schedules for that will be shared with you guys. We have you on our mailing list and we'll update you once those classes are ready to run. But definitely we'll have more sessions for intermediates and we'll have sessions that really go into the nitty gritty of that so that you can understand the context and you'll be able to understand how to apply them to your data analysis. Yes, we'll share the recordings and then we'll also give you that information. Who have I not heard speak? Christiana?
Hi, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning, Christiana.
I really want to say thank you for the classes. Though I didn't attend the very first class, but I think the video did justice to it. Thank you very much. And I've not been able to submit my assignment, reason that the power issue, but I will definitely do that. I want to say thank you. Just like Deborah said, if there'll be more classes on DAX because it was really complicated today. I think it's the first time I'm seeing a class like that. If there'll be more classes on it, We really appreciate. So I want to say thank you very much to our trainees. Thank you to my co-classmates. Thank you, everyone. Good morning once again.
All right, thank you so much, Christiana. Definitely we will communicate other classes to you. Thank you for joining in. Thank you guys so much for being attentive, for answering questions, for doing assignments. You've, will I say, validated our aim, our objective. We're very happy that we've been able to pass across some knowledge. Um, so I guess we'll round up now and we'll communicate like maybe a channel or a group where we can join and share resources if we're experiencing issues, things like that, and hopefully build our own community from there. We'll also share the recordings for this session and details on future sessions. Yeah, so and also yes, we're going to send out surveys to fill in so that we'll be able to improve our teaching. We'll ask about the times, the lengths of the classes, number of trainers, the content that was shared, all of those things, so we can get feedback on them and improve them. So please fill them out. I know people don't like to fill out surveys, but we try to make them as short as possible so that we can get like feedback on how to improve. So yeah, thank you guys for working with us for 3 weeks. It's been great
I'm
to have
sorry,
you.
a question.
Yes. Hi.
So this last class, she gave a little bit of assignments. Are we to submit it, and how do you also get feedback from the assignments in the last class?
Yes, you can submit it, and feedback we could. I don't want to let's say commit anything now, but we could, depending on what it is they've done. If it requires a quick call, we might be able to. But I think most feedback could be given over email probably. Or if we create the group, then maybe it could be like a screen recorded video. Are we going to get certificates? Do you know what? We can create it. We'll send you guys certificates. You've been trained by the training workspace. And we like to create pretty things, so we can send out certificates. And, yeah, so we'll find a way. We'll find a way around feedback. If it's not emails, maybe in the group we create or something along those lines. But feel free to send in your work, and we'll find a way. We'll get around the feedback. So is that fine? Everybody good? All right. You know where to reach us via our email, but we're also going to be building up our social media presence everywhere. Hopefully landing pages and more like that. So when we do, we'll share so everybody can follow and we'll stay. And you guys will be our OG community and get special perks for everything. All right. Thank you guys so much again for all of your participation and your kind words. This is not the last time that we'll be speaking to each other. So see you soon. All right. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.